Admiral Creshval stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the star map with disgust. The red dot marking the Sol system glowed like an old wound on the display. 300 years had passed since anyone had heard from that dead world, and he liked it that way. "Admiral, we're approaching the human zone," his communications officer announced. The bridge crew always got nervous when they came near Sol. Even after all this time, the stories still scared them. "There's nothing there to worry about," Creshval said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had studied galactic history. "The humans tried to expand too fast, fought too many wars, and paid the price. They're extinct now, or close enough to it." The communications officer nodded, but Creshval could see the fear in his eyes. Everyone knew the stories about humans, how they had spread across dozens of star systems in just 2 centuries, how they had fought 3 different galactic powers at the same time, how they had been so dangerous that the entire galaxy had worked together to stop them. "The silent world serves as a perfect reminder," Creshval continued, enjoying the teaching moment. "This is what happens when a species reaches beyond its limits. Earth went dark 300 years ago, and it's been silent ever since. No transmissions, no ships, no signs of life. A whole civilization. Gone." Deep beneath Earth's surface, Commander Jin Seojun heard every word through the monitoring system. He stood in a control room that stretched for kilometers underground, filled with displays showing activity across the galaxy. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations, tracking ships, monitoring communications, and updating the vast database of galactic intelligence that humanity had been building for 3 centuries. "They still think we're dead," said Captain Lee Da-un, walking up beside Jin. She was younger than him, but her eyes held the same patient determination that had kept humanity going through the long silence. "Good," Jin replied, watching Creshval's fleet move past Sol on the display. Lee looked at the massive construction project visible through the transparent walls of the control room. Thousands of workers moved like ants around the skeletal frame of something enormous. The final silent engine drive system was almost complete. When it was finished, humanity would have technology that could make entire fleets invisible to any sensor in the galaxy. "Dr. Park says we could be ready in 6 months," Lee said. "The quantum field generators are working perfectly now. No one will be able to detect us when we move." Jin nodded, but his attention was focused on another display. It showed deep space monitoring stations scattered throughout the galaxy, all reporting the same impossible readings. Something was coming from outside the galaxy itself, and it was big. "Have you seen the latest reports from the outer rim?" he asked Lee. She looked at the display and frowned. The readings made no sense. Ships were appearing from empty space, using technology that the galaxy's best scientists couldn't explain. Worse, these ships were destroying everything they encountered with weapons that seemed to ignore all known defenses. "The Galactic Coalition doesn't know what to do," Jin continued. "Their fleets are being destroyed faster than they can respond. Admiral Creshval and his people think they're the strongest military force in the galaxy, but they're about to learn how wrong they are. Far below them, in the deepest levels of the underground complex, Dr. Park Min-young put the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement. The silent engine wasn't just a propulsion system. It was a completely new way of thinking about space travel, based on principles that the galaxy's rigid scientific community had never discovered. The engine didn't push ships through space. Instead, it convinced the universe that the ship was already where it wanted to be. By existing in multiple quantum states at the same time, a ship with a silent engine could move faster than anything else in the galaxy while remaining completely invisible to all sensors. "Dr. Park, we're getting reports that the outer rim colonies are going silent," her assistant said, looking up from his workstation with worry. She nodded grimly. The alien invaders were moving faster than anyone had expected. Entire star systems were being cut off from galactic communications. The few ships that escaped these attacks brought stories that sounded impossible. Enemy vessels that could phase through solid matter. Weapons that destroyed things at the atomic level. technology that seemed to learn and adapt in real time. Back in the control room, Jin watched as more reports came in. The aliens, who intelligence reports were calling devourers, had technology that made current galactic defenses look like toys. They moved through space using methods that no one understood, and their weapons could destroy entire fleets in minutes. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Galactic Coalition Command," a technician announced. "They're calling for all available ships to rally for defense of the core worlds." Jin almost smiled. For 300 years, the galaxy had ignored Earth. They had written off humanity as a failed experiment, a species that had reached too far and been slapped down. Trade routes avoided Sol. Military patrols only came near to remind themselves of what happened to aggressive species. What they didn't know was that humanity had used those 3 centuries well. While the galaxy celebrated human defeat, Earth's survivors had gone underground and begun the greatest technological revolution in galactic history. They had studied every alien technology, learned from every galactic conflict, and developed capabilities that no other species had even imagined. The silent engines were just the beginning. Humanity had quantum manufacturing systems that could build entire ships in hours. They had adaptive artificial intelligence that could analyze and counter any threat in real time. Most importantly, they had learned to work together in ways that made them stronger than any individual species in the galaxy. "Sir, should we respond to the Coalition's call?" Jin looked at the displays showing devourer ships advancing toward the galactic core. The galaxy's most powerful military forces were being destroyed systematically. Soon, the threat would reach the inner systems, and then even Earth itself would be in danger. The time for silence was almost over. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for their return to the galactic stage. They had watched and learned and built and planned. Now, as the galaxy faced its greatest threat, it was time to show them what Earth's children had become. "Not yet," Jin said quietly. "But soon, very soon, the galaxy is going to remember why they were so afraid of humanity in the first place." Dr. Park Min-young walked through the memorial hall that every human child visited before their 10th birthday. The walls showed images from the Great Silence, as historians now called it. Pictures of burning human colonies, ships fleeing through space. The last transmission from Earth's government, 300 years ago, telling their scattered children to go dark and wait. "Tell me again why we stayed hidden," said her young assistant, Kim Jae-woo, as they stopped before the largest display. It showed Admiral Kreshval's grandfather accepting humanity's surrender, standing proud while human delegates signed the papers that officially ended their expansion. "Because surrender was never surrender," Park replied, touching the display. The image changed to show what really happened after that ceremony. While the galaxy celebrated, human survivors had already begun digging. Not graves, but the foundations of something much more important. She led Jae-woo deeper into the memorial, to rooms that showed the real story. In the first decade after defeat, humanity had built the first underground cities. In the second decade, they had created the monitoring networks that watched galactic space. By the third decade, they were developing technologies that no alien species had ever imagined. "The galaxy expected us to die quietly," Park explained. "Instead, we learned to live quietly. We studied every alien ship that passed through our space. We analyzed every transmission we intercepted. We built databases of galactic technology, politics, and military capabilities that were more complete than anything the galactic powers had about each other." They entered a vast workshop where hundreds of technicians worked on the final silent engine components. The technology looked organic rather than mechanical, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to flow like water. This was humanity's greatest breakthrough, learning to grow technology instead of building it. "How is it possible?" Jae-woo asked, watching engineers shape quantum field generators with their bare hands. The metal responded to their touch like clay, reforming itself into perfect geometric patterns that would have been impossible to manufacture using traditional methods. Because we learned to think differently about science itself, Park said. The galaxy follows rules. They believe that technology must work in specific ways, according to fixed principles. But humans learned to work with uncertainty. We developed quantum sciences that treat technology like a living thing. She showed him the first silent engine prototype, built 50 years ago. It was crude compared to current models, but it had proven that human theories were correct. A ship equipped with the prototype could exist in multiple places at the same time, making it invisible to sensors while allowing it to move at impossible speeds. The aliens think in straight lines, Park continued. They believe that if something is here, it cannot also be there. But quantum mechanics teaches us that particles can exist in multiple states until they're observed. We applied that principle to entire spaceships. Commander Jin So-jun joined them in the workshop, coming from another meeting with his senior staff. His face was serious as he looked at the status displays showing Devourer advancement through galactic space. "How long until the fleet is ready?" he asked Park. "The final engines will be installed within 3 days," she replied. "But sir, are you sure we should reveal ourselves? The galaxy still doesn't know what we've become. Once we show them our capabilities, there will be no going back to the silence." Jin walked over to a holographic display that showed the current galactic situation. Red markers indicated systems that had gone silent as Devourer forces advanced. Yellow markers showed coalition fleets moving to intercept, but the pattern was clear. The alien invaders were winning every engagement. "Look at their tactics," he said, pointing to the display. "The Devourers aren't just destroying ships. They're studying each engagement, learning from every battle. Their technology adapts to counter whatever weapons are used against them. By the time coalition forces develop new strategies, the enemy has already evolved past them." Captain Lee Da-yoon appeared on the display as a hologram, calling in from the test flight of the first fully operational silent engine ship. Her vessel was currently orbiting Jupiter, but sensors in the Sol system couldn't detect it. As far as any alien technology was concerned, her ship simply didn't exist. "The stealth systems are working perfectly," she reported. "I've been scanning Kreshval's fleet for the past hour, and they have no idea I'm here. Their sensors are looking right through me." Jin nodded with satisfaction. The silent engine technology was more than just invisibility. Ships equipped with it could move through space without disturbing gravitational fields, electromagnetic spectra, or quantum foam. They existed in a state of quantum uncertainty that made them effectively invisible to all known detection methods. "What about weapons testing?" he asked. Lee's expression became eager. "The adaptive targeting systems exceed all projections. I can analyze the quantum structure of any target and modify weapon frequencies in real time to bypass their defenses. These Devourer ships might be advanced, but their technology follows predictable patterns. Our weapons will learn to counter them within minutes of first contact." Park felt a mixture of pride and worry as she watched the demonstration. Humanity had spent 3 centuries developing not just new technology, but entirely new ways of thinking about technology. Where alien species created fixed, unchanging systems, humans had learned to build technology that evolved and adapted. "There's something else," Lee continued. "I've been monitoring coalition communications. Admiral Kreshval's fleet is being ordered to fall back toward the outer rim. The Devourers have broken through the primary defense lines faster than anyone expected. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach Earth within 6 months." The workshop fell silent as everyone processed this information. For 300 years, Earth had been safe because the galaxy ignored it. Now, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced was coming directly toward them. "We always knew this day would come," Jin said quietly. "Humanity can't hide forever. The question is whether we reveal ourselves as protectors or as survivors." Park looked around the workshop at the assembled silent engine components. Each piece represented decades of research, testing, and refinement. Humanity had used their centuries of silence to become something unprecedented in galactic history. They hadn't just advanced technologically, they had evolved intellectually and socially. "The galaxy is about to learn something important," she said. "They thought they defeated humanity 300 years ago. But you can't defeat an idea, and you can't kill a dream. We didn't surrender. We transformed." Jin studied the tactical displays one more time, watching as another coalition fleet was destroyed by devourer forces. The alien invaders were using technology that seemed to violate known physical laws, but human scientists had learned to work with such impossibilities decades ago. "Contact all division commanders," he ordered. "It's time to wake the engines. The galaxy is going to see what humanity has become, and they're going to remember why they were so afraid of us in the first place." In the depths of space, invisible to all alien sensors, the first ships of humanity's secret fleet began to move. Admiral Kreshval watched his tactical display with growing horror as another coalition fleet disappeared from sensors. The devourer ships moved through space like ghosts, phasing through solid matter and destroying everything in their path. Their weapons didn't just damage enemy vessels. They seemed to erase them from existence entirely. "Sir, we're receiving retreat orders from High Command," his communications officer reported, voice shaking. "All remaining coalition forces are to fall back to defensive positions around the core worlds." Kreshval cursed in his native language. In just 3 weeks, the Devourers had destroyed more ships than the galaxy had lost in the previous century of conflicts. Their technology was beyond anything the Coalition's best scientists could understand. Worse, the alien invaders seemed to learn from every engagement, adapting their tactics and weapons after each battle. "Set course for the Outer Rim," he ordered. "We'll regroup with the 7th Fleet near the border regions." His ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leading the remnants of his battle group away from the advancing alien forces. The route took them through rarely traveled space, including the dead zone around Sol System. Even in retreat, Kreshval felt disgusted passing near the silent world where humanity had once lived. "Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational distortions ahead," the sensor operator announced. "The Devourers must have gotten ahead of us somehow." On the display, space itself seemed to ripple and twist as enemy ships began materializing from what looked like empty vacuum. The alien vessels were enormous, built from materials that bent light around them, and seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else entirely. "All ships, defensive formation," Kreshval commanded. "Prepare for engagement." The coalition ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes struck the Devourer vessels, but the weapons passed through them harmlessly, as if they were attacking shadows. The alien ships didn't even slow down. Then the Devourers returned fire. Their weapons created tears in space itself, and anything caught in those tears simply ceased to exist. 3 coalition ships vanished instantly, not destroyed but erased so completely that even their debris disappeared. "Shields are useless," Kreshval's tactical officer reported. "Their weapons ignore all our defenses." "Sir, we need to retreat immediately." But before Kreshval could give the order, something impossible happened. His ship's sensors suddenly showed that they were no longer in open space. According to the readings, his entire fleet was now surrounded by some kind of protective field that the sensors couldn't properly analyze. "What's happening to our instruments?" he demanded. The answer came as a voice spoke directly onto his bridge, though no communication channel was open. The voice was calm, professional, and spoke perfect galactic standard language with an accent that Kreshval almost recognized. "Admiral Kreshval, this is Commander Jin Sojun of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your ships are now under our protection. Do not attempt to move or fire weapons until we have dealt with the immediate threat." Kreshval stared at his communications officer in shock. Did he just say Earth Defense Fleet? Before anyone could answer, ships began appearing around them. Not on sensors first, but directly visible through the viewports. Human vessels materialized from what looked like empty space, their hulls smooth and organic-looking, like they had been grown rather than built. They moved with impossible grace, positioning themselves between the Coalition fleet and the Devourer ships. "Impossible," Kreshval whispered. "The humans are extinct. We made sure of that." Captain Li Dawn's voice came through the communication system as her ship took point position. "Devourer vessels, you have entered protected space. Leave now, or face the consequences." The alien ships responded by firing their reality-tearing weapons at the human vessels. Kreshval expected to watch the mysterious ships disappear like all the others. Instead, something remarkable happened. The human ships seemed to shimmer and bend, existing in multiple places at once. The Devourer weapons passed through empty space where the ships appeared to be, while the actual vessels remained untouched. "How are they doing that?" his tactical officer gasped. The human ships began their counterattack, and Kreshval realized he was witnessing technology beyond anything in galactic civilization. The human weapons didn't just fire at the Devourer ships. They seemed to study them first. Scanning beams analyzed the alien vessel's quantum structure, and then the weapons adjusted their frequency and targeting to exploit weaknesses that formed in real time. One Devourer ship tried to phase through a human vessel's attack. Instead of passing harmlessly through, the alien ship suddenly became solid, just as the human weapon struck it. The explosion was spectacular. But what shocked Kreshval more was what happened next. The human ships immediately began analyzing the debris, their weapons evolving to become even more effective against the remaining enemies. "They're learning," he said in amazement. "Their technology is adapting during the battle." Dr. Park Min-young's voice joined the communication channel from her position in the human fleet's command ship. "Admiral Kreshval, we're transmitting technical specifications to your science officer. Your ship's sensors cannot properly detect our defensive field because it operates on quantum principles your technology doesn't recognize." The science officer looked up from his station with wide eyes. "Sir, the data they're sending, it's impossible. They're describing technology that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their ships aren't just invisible. They exist in quantum superposition." On the tactical display, the battle was turning into a demonstration of overwhelming superiority. The human ships moved through space like dancers, appearing and disappearing, their weapons adapting to counter every Devourer tactic within seconds of encountering it. When the aliens tried to escape into their phase dimension, human ships followed them. When they attempted to use their reality erasure weapons, human defensive systems convinced the universe that the weapons were striking empty space. Commander Jin Seojun appeared on Kreshval's main display as a hologram, and the Admiral felt his breath catch. The human looked exactly like the historical records, but his eyes held a depth that spoke of centuries of patience and preparation. "Admiral, we need to talk," Jin said. "But first, let me show you something that might change your perspective on what happened 300 years ago." The display changed to show archival footage of the day humanity officially surrendered. But now, Kreshval could see details that had been hidden from galactic records. Human leaders signing the surrender documents with small smiles. Military officers who looked more relieved than defeated. Most telling of all, the complete absence of human civilian populations in any of the surrender ceremonies. "You never actually defeated us," Jin explained. "We chose to disappear. We gave you our colonies and our visible fleet. But we kept our people and our most important research. While you celebrated victory, we were already beginning the greatest transformation in galactic history." The last Devourer ship was destroyed. Its exotic technology analyzed and countered by human systems that treated impossibility as just another engineering challenge. The alien threat that had seemed unstoppable had been completely eliminated in less than 20 minutes. "This is what 3 centuries of silent preparation looks like," Jin continued. "The galaxy wrote us off as extinct, But we used that time to become something unprecedented. We didn't just advance our technology. We evolved our entire approach to science, warfare, and civilization. Creshval looked around his bridge at officers who were staring at displays they couldn't fully comprehend. The humans had just demonstrated capabilities that made every other galactic power look primitive by comparison. "What do you want from us?" he asked quietly. Jin's expression became serious. "The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. To live in peace and explore the universe. But the galaxy is facing a threat that requires cooperation on a scale never before achieved. These devourer forces you encountered are just scouts. The real invasion fleet is still coming." The hologram zoomed out to show deep space sensor readings that made Creshval's blood turn cold. Thousands of devourer ships were approaching from outside the galaxy, carrying technology that made the scouts look primitive. "Humanity is offering our help," Jin said. "But this time, we do it as equals, not as subjects. The galaxy is about to discover whether 3 centuries of hiding have made us your saviors or your successors." The Galactic Council chamber had not seen such chaos in over 2 centuries. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted at each other in dozens of languages, their voices creating a din that the translation systems could barely handle. At the center of the circular chamber, a single figure stood calmly waiting for order. Ambassador Chen He-jin had arrived at the galactic capital 3 hours ago aboard a ship that had somehow passed through the planet's supposedly impenetrable defensive shields without triggering a single alarm. The security implications alone had sent the Council into emergency session. But what she carried with her had shaken the foundation of galactic civilization. "Order! Order!" High Chancellor Vex Prime called, his 4 arms gesturing frantically at the assembled delegates. "The human ambassador has requested to address this body, and under emergency protocols, we are obligated to hear her." The shouting gradually died down, replaced by suspicious murmurs and nervous whispers. Most of the beings in the chamber had never seen a living human before. According to every official record, the species had been extinct for 300 years. Yet here stood their representative, carrying data packages that challenged everything the galaxy believed about human capabilities. "Honored representatives," Chen began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "I bring greetings from Earth and an offer of alliance against the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced." She gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. It showed the outer rim of the galaxy, where red markers indicated the advancing devourer fleet. The scale made several delegates gasp in horror. Thousands of enemy ships were approaching, each one larger than anything in the galactic fleet. "Your military analysts estimate that this invasion force will reach the core worlds within 6 months," Chen continued. "Based on demonstrated devourer capabilities, current galactic defenses will delay them by perhaps 3 weeks. After that, every civilized world in the galaxy will be destroyed." Senator Cole Nash of the Centauri Republic stood up, his voice shaking with anger. "Why should we trust anything you say? Humans are liars and warmongers. You disappeared 300 years ago after trying to conquer half the galaxy. Now you return just as disaster strikes? This seems very convenient." Chen smiled patiently. "Senator, I understand your suspicion. Allow me to demonstrate something that might change your perspective." She touched a control on her wrist, and the chamber's walls became transparent. Outside, in the supposedly secure space around the galactic capital, hundreds of human ships materialized from apparent nothingness. They had been there all along, invisible to every sensor, able to strike at the heart of galactic government without anyone knowing. The demonstration lasted exactly 10 seconds before the ships vanished again, but its message was unmistakable. If humanity wanted to conquer the galaxy, they could have done it already, without anyone being able to stop them. "We call them silent engines," Chen explained as delegates stared at the now empty space where the fleet had appeared. "For 3 centuries, we have been watching, learning, and preparing. We know more about your civilizations than you know about each other. We have observed every galactic conflict, studied every technology, and developed countermeasures for every weapon system you possess. Dr. Park Min-young joined the session via quantum transmission, her image appearing alongside Chen's. What the ambassador is showing you represents just one aspect of our technological advancement. While you have followed predictable research paths, humanity has explored sciences that your civilizations never imagined. She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a comparison between galactic and human technology. Where alien designs were rigid and mechanical, human systems flowed like living organisms. Where galactic weapons fired fixed energy patterns, human armaments adapted their output in real time based on target analysis. Our ships don't just move through space, Park explained. They exist in quantum superposition, allowing them to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Our weapons don't just destroy targets. They learn from each engagement, becoming more effective with every shot fired. Chancellor Vex Prime leaned forward in his seat. If your capabilities are so advanced, why do you need our help at all? Why not simply destroy these devourers yourselves? Chen's expression became serious. Because, Chancellor, we learned something important during our 3 centuries of observation. The greatest strength in the universe is not superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It is cooperation, unity, the ability of different species to work together toward a common goal. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as a priority transmission came through from the outer system defense platforms. The voice of Admiral Kreshval filled the chamber, and he sounded terrified. Council command. We have a massive enemy contact approaching the capital system. Devourer ships in numbers we've never seen before. They're moving faster than our scouts reported possible. Estimated arrival at planetary orbit in 47 minutes. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives began evacuating toward emergency shelters, while military officers shouted orders into communication devices. But Chen remained calm, touching her wrist control again. All human vessels. This is Ambassador Chen. Implement Defensive Protocol 7. Protect all civilian populations and coordinate with local defense forces. On the chamber's displays, space around the galactic capital suddenly filled with activity. Human ships appeared in perfect formation, their organic hulls gleaming as they took position between the approaching Devourer fleet and the populated worlds. But these weren't the same vessels that had demonstrated their stealth capabilities earlier. These ships were larger, more complex, and radiated energy signatures that made the monitoring equipment malfunction. Captain Li Da-eun's voice came through the communication system from her position, commanding the human defense fleet. Ambassador, we have visual contact with the enemy force. They're using the same phase-shifting technology we observed in previous encounters, but on a much larger scale. Sensors indicate they have siege equipment designed to crack planetary shields. The display showed the approaching Devourer fleet in all its terrifying glory. Each ship was the size of a space station, bristling with weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls shifting between dimensions to avoid conventional targeting. Human vessels, this is Admiral Kreshval of the Coalition Defense Force, came a transmission from the Galactic Fleet. We're moving to support your position, but our weapons have proven ineffective against Devourer technology. Li's response surprised everyone in the chamber. Admiral, we're transmitting tactical coordination protocols to your fleet. Our analysis indicates that galactic weapons can be effective against Devourer ships if properly modified and targeted. We'll provide real-time tactical support. Dr. Park Min-young appeared on the displays again, this time surrounded by holographic representations of both human and galactic ships. The key to defeating Devourer technology is understanding that their phase-shifting ability has predictable patterns. Our quantum analysis systems can calculate when their ships will solidify, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. What followed was unlike any battle in galactic history. Human ships didn't just fight alongside coalition forces, they enhanced them. Galactic weapons that had been useless against Devourer technology suddenly became devastating as human tactical computers provided targeting data that predicted enemy phase transitions. Coalition ships that had been fleeing in terror just hours earlier found themselves striking, telling blows against enemies that had seemed invincible. Working together, the combined fleet began systematically destroying Devourer ships that individually outclassed anything the galaxy had ever built. "This is impossible," Senator Colnash whispered, watching the tactical display. "They're making our weapons work against technology we couldn't even damage." Chen nodded, watching her people coordinate perfectly with species that had once driven them into exile. "This is what cooperation looks like, Senator. Humanity spent 3 centuries learning not just how to be stronger, but how to make others stronger. We didn't return to conquer the galaxy. We returned to save it." The battle ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer siege fleet, achieved not through superior firepower, but through unprecedented cooperation between human innovation and galactic determination. For the first time in 300 years, the galaxy had seen what humans could accomplish when working with others instead of against them. "The main invasion fleet is still coming," Chen said as the chamber fell silent. "But now you've seen what's possible when we work together. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to accept humanity not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals in the fight for survival." Outside the chamber windows, human and galactic ships patrolled together in formations that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. The galaxy was about to discover whether 3 centuries of separation had prepared them for true unity against an impossible threat. The main Devourer invasion fleet arrived at Earth exactly as predicted, and Admiral Creshval felt his heart sink as he saw them through his ship's viewport. The enemy force stretched across space like a dark tide, thousands of vessels, each larger than anything the galaxy had ever built. Their hulls shifted between dimensions, creating optical illusions that hurt to look at directly. "By the ancestors," whispered his tactical officer, "how can there be so many of them?" Creshval stood on the bridge of his flagship, now part of the largest combined fleet in galactic history. Ships from every major civilization orbited Earth alongside human vessels, their crews working together with coordination that would have been impossible just weeks ago. But even with their newfound cooperation, they were outnumbered 50 to 1. "Admiral, the humans are requesting a final strategy meeting," his communications officer reported. "Commander Jin wants all fleet commanders to link into their tactical network." Quote. Creshval nodded, though he still felt strange about trusting human technology with his ship's systems. When the connection established, he found himself standing in what looked like a vast command center that existed somewhere between virtual reality and actual space. Other fleet commanders appeared around him, their forms perfectly rendered despite being transmitted across light years. Commander Jin Seojun stood at the center of the gathering, but he was not alone. Behind him, Creshval could see figures that made his blood run cold with recognition. Dr. Park Min-young was there, but so were thousands of other humans, their minds somehow connected to the same network that linked the fleet commanders. "Welcome to humanity's true secret," Jin said, his voice carrying across the virtual space. "What you're seeing isn't just our command center. It's our entire civilization, working together as a single entity." Captain Lee Da-un stepped forward, her consciousness somehow expanded beyond anything Creshval had thought possible. "For 3 centuries, we didn't just advance our technology. We evolved our society. Every human mind on Earth is connected through quantum neural networks. When we think together, we become more than the sum of our parts." The display around them shifted to show Earth itself, but not as any alien had ever seen it. The planet wasn't just inhabited, it was alive. The entire world functioned as a massive quantum computer, its billions of human minds linked together in perfect harmony. Cities didn't just house people, they integrated with human consciousness to create hybrid environments where thought and technology merged seamlessly. "This is what we became during the silence," Jin explained. Not just a species with better ships or stronger weapons, but a civilization that learned to think as one while preserving individual creativity and innovation. Every human can access the collective knowledge and capabilities of our entire species. Dr. Park Min-young's consciousness expanded to show the assembled commanders the technical details. Human technology wasn't manufactured in the traditional sense. It was grown from quantum templates, Wei was as 8, shaped by collective human will and guided by merged intelligences that could process information on scales no individual mind could handle. Your ships are powerful, she said, but they're operated by individual crews with limited coordination. Our vessels are extensions of collective consciousness. Every human ship knows instantly what every other human ship is thinking and planning. We don't just work together. We exist together. The Devourer fleet began its attack, and the difference became immediately apparent. Where galactic ships had to rely on communication systems and command hierarchies, human vessels moved with perfect synchronization. They didn't need to coordinate their actions because they shared the same thoughts, the same tactical awareness, the same understanding of the battle as it unfolded. But more importantly, the human ships began adapting in ways that defied understanding. As Devourer weapons struck their hulls, the damaged areas immediately began rebuilding themselves using quantum manufacturing principles. When enemy tactics proved effective, human consciousness analyzed and countered them within seconds, sharing the solutions instantly across the entire fleet. How is this possible? Creshval asked. Watching human ships grow new weapons systems in real time. Because we don't think of technology as separate from ourselves, Ambassador Chen Hiajin replied, her consciousness joining the network from Earth's surface. Our ships aren't just vessels we pilot. They're extensions of our collective being. When they're damaged, we heal them. When they need to evolve, we grow them into something better. The battle became a demonstration of post-scarcity engineering that left the galactic commanders speechless. Human ships didn't just fight the Devourers, they consumed them, analyzing enemy technology and incorporating useful elements into their own designs within minutes. Devourer advantages became human capabilities almost as soon as they were deployed. You're not just defeating them, Creshval observed. You're absorbing their technology. Jin nodded, his consciousness expanded to coordinate millions of tactical decisions simultaneously. The Devourers are powerful because they adapt quickly to threats. But they're still individual ships with limited communication. They can't match a civilization that thinks and adapts as a single entity while maintaining the creativity of billions of individual minds. The tide of battle shifted as something unprecedented happened. Human ships began growing new sections, not just repairing damage, but actually increasing in size and capability during combat. The collective human consciousness was using the battle itself as a learning experience, developing new technologies in real time and implementing them faster than the Devourers could counter. This is what 3 centuries of preparation looks like, Lee said, her awareness simultaneously coordinating hundreds of ship squadrons. We didn't just survive our exile, we transcended the limitations that define individual species. We became something new. The final phase of the battle demonstrated humanity's ultimate capability. As the largest Devourer ships attempted to retreat into their phase dimension, human vessels followed them. The collective consciousness had learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making escape impossible for the invaders. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, its technology fully analyzed and integrated into human databases, the galactic commanders found themselves floating in virtual space that had become something like a temple. The human consciousness that surrounded them wasn't triumphant or aggressive. It was peaceful, welcoming, and infinitely patient. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, Jin said, though now his voice seemed to carry the wisdom of billions of minds. You can continue the old patterns of conflict and competition, or you can join us in exploring what cooperation can really achieve. Dr. Park's consciousness showed them visions of what was possible. Galactic civilizations working together, sharing knowledge and resources through quantum networks that linked entire species. Scientific advancement that happened at the speed of thought, rather than the pace of individual research. Exploration of the universe conducted by merged consciousnesses that could comprehend cosmic scales that individual minds couldn't grasp. We're not offering conquest, Chen added. We're offering evolution. The chance to become more than you ever imagined possible. Admiral Creshval looked around at the other fleet commanders, seeing the same wonder and possibility reflected in their expressions. The humans had shown them something beyond victory in battle. They had revealed a future where the arbitrary limitations of individual thinking could be transcended while preserving the creativity and diversity that made each species unique. What would happen to us? He asked. To our individual identities. You would become more yourselves than you've ever been, Jin replied. Individual consciousness doesn't disappear in our network. It flourishes. When billions of minds support your thoughts and dreams, when the accumulated knowledge of entire civilizations becomes available to inspire your creativity, you don't lose who you are. You discover who you could become. The quantum network began showing them glimpses of integrated galactic civilization. Creshval saw himself not just as a military commander, but as an explorer of infinite possibilities, his tactical knowledge enhanced by the combined wisdom of species he had never even heard of. His individual perspective remained intact, but it was supported and amplified by connection to minds that could help him achieve things he had never dreamed possible. Around Earth, the combined fleet hung in space like a symbol of what the galaxy could become. Human ships and alien vessels working together, their crews beginning to understand that the universe was vast enough for cooperation rather than conflict, complex enough to require the combined intelligence of all conscious life to truly comprehend. The galaxy had awakened to discover that humanity's return wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The silent engines had done more than wake. They had sung a song of possibility that would echo through the stars for generations to come.